Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. A declaration is signed on the final day of the second UNESCO Most Regional Forum. The Minister of Works and Infrastructure says the greatest investment is one which is made towards educating a nation. And for the first time, applicants for home improvement grants who are unable to get to the Ministry of Housing will be able to have the transaction done at their homes. Thank you for joining us to our top story, the Port of Spain Declaration 2012, promoting equity and social inclusion, pathways to prosperity for all. This was adopted at the signing of the declaration, which took place at the Hilton Trinidad on the final day of the second UNESCO Most Regional Forum of Ministers of Social and Sustainable Development in the Caribbean. Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. the Honorable Glenn Ramadasing, says the forum was a tremendous success.
The Social Development Minister says the purpose of the forum was to exchange ideas and discuss the way forward in promoting social equity throughout the region.
To develop strategies, to share policies, to create a new agenda, a new way forward for the Latin America and the Caribbean, to share ideas, and to hold to the tenets of the conference, which is how do we create more social inclusion and how do we practice equity so that it redounds to the benefit of countries and the region as a whole.
While highlighting his satisfaction in the discussions which were held, Dr. Ramadasing says the conference will go a long way in social development.
The Ministry of the People and Social Development is very, very proud to have been able to do all the groundwork for this conference. We are happy to see the success that it is, and we hope that it redounds to the benefit of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago to have this kind of exposure here and to bring the minds of the universities, of governments, of NGOs, of the private sector, and of thinkers as to how do we go forward in terms of social development and building a ministry of the people for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Dr. Tim Gopi Singh says special needs students should be included in the formal aspect of the education system.
We have found for too long there has been some dysfunctionality where the special needs students are left on their own without being within the mainstream of the education system. We estimate that it is about 30% of the student population of the annual births. And if it is 17,000 births annually, we believe that there are close to about 5,000 students with either emotional, behavioral or psychological abnormalities, attention deficit disorder or syndrome.
Dr. Gopi Singh adds that special studies will be done to diagnose the disorders of special needs students. He says centers will be set up for these students throughout various parts of the country where they will be attended to.
We are moving to 8 primary schools and 8 early childhood education centers in a scientific study to determine the true incidence and prevalence of these various disorders for special needs students. And concurrently with it, we are developing the mechanisms for the human resource aspect for the management of these students on early diagnosis and then inclusion within the mainstream of the education system.
Verna Barth, News 4.
Minister of Works and Infrastructure, the Honorable Jack Warner, says the greatest investment is one which is made towards educating a nation. He was speaking at the Woodford Lodge Workforce Development Technology Center in Chaguanas, where several other government ministers were also present.
The Honorable Jack Warner is commending the efforts of the Minister of Science, Technology and Tertiary Education for the initiatives to expand the tertiary education sector in this country. Speaking at the Woodford Lodge Workforce Development Technology Center in Chaguanas, the Minister says the best investment which can be made is to the human resource of a country via education.
The Minister and his ministry understand the value of education. Because a nation's greatest strength is not its oil or its gas. A nation's greatest strength is its people. And its people can only be useful if they are educated. if they're educated, and doesn't mean that you have to have a PhD, you know. It means that you have to be educated, you have to be a professional in whatever you do.
In light of the various criticisms leveled against government on their 2-year anniversary celebrations scheduled on May 24th, Mr. Warner fired back, saying the reasons for celebration are quite obvious.
Do you tell me that Mr. Karim doesn't have to celebrate what he has done over the last 2 years? You're telling me that all the roads and drains and bridges you have gotten, you have to cause to celebrate? You're telling me when young Erica Caton, that's her name I hope, I sung there, Erica Caton, an African girl dancing an Indian dance, I nearly passed out. I almost passed out. There was a time when you would when an African girl would have been ashamed to put on an Indian costume, far less dance in public, and we don't have much to celebrate.
The minister adds that he has dreams of his own for the Woodford Lodge Workforce Development Technology Center. He says the facility should one day train drivers on road discipline and safety. This comes on the heels of the fatal accident on the eastbound lane of the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway between the Twin City and Orange Grove intersections. 4 persons were instantly killed.
My hope is that when this thing comes on stream, we will be able to use this as also one of the mechanisms or institutions to teach people how to drive. To teach people that speed is not a solution. Every weekend, this country faces a carnage. And yesterday morning was no different. We face a carnage on weekends for 4 reasons. Of course, basically young people between 18 and 24, but 4 reasons. 1 is speed, 2, alcohol, 3, inexperience, and I put the 4th as stupidity.
Mr. Warner is proposing to have cameras installed throughout various parts of the country to monitor drivers. He says the initiative will assist in clamping down on reckless driving.
We go and copy the English model. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, where we have cameras now throughout the length and breadth of the country, where people can be charged based on the cameras, and where in 2 weeks' time they'll pay their bill, their fines and so on. After 3 fines, they banned it and so on. You have to do that.
Vuna Bharath, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us.
Homo sapien, we'll call him Mark. It spends its days trying to attract a mate. Success. What follows is a series of celebratory actions unique to this species. Every Homo sapien has their own way of displaying themselves to attract a female. But things don't go according to plan.
Where do you want to go?
No water, no love. Pay your water bill today.
The Water and Sewage Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Water security for every sector. Deliver it. Sustain it.
There's a spark of greatness in each of us. That spark is called personality. Individual gifts and talents provide the fuel to set that spark ablaze. Each child has the right to an education which values their personality and nurtures their talents, while teaching them to be respectful to their parents and their cultures.
Welcome back. Housing and the Environment Minister, Dr. The Honorable Rudal Munilal, says applicants for home improvement grants who are unable to get to the Ministry of Housing will be able for the first time to have transactions done at their homes. Dr. Munilal was speaking at the distribution of home improvement grants to some 50 persons, including those who were victims of last year's severe flooding in Maraval.
Even better news for persons who qualify for home improvement grants. Housing and the Environment Minister, Dr. Rudal Munilal, says transactions which are usually conducted at the Ministry of Housing will be done at the homes of applicants who are unable to get to the ministry.
The unit has also introduced a program of home visits whereby clients selected for the home improvement program who are unable to come to the ministry to transact business can be processed at their respective homes and facilitated with the conduct of interviews, signing of agreements, and disbursement of monies. Imagine the home improvement grant coming home to you. For the first time in history, we can actually take the grant and bring it home for you.
Minister Munilal adds that computer literate persons can now apply for such grants online. He says other government services are also now available online.
The ministry has developed sophisticated IT solutions which enable computer literate persons to make online applications and access other ministry services. And we did this in a context that I will explain. We took in mind that it is the policy of this government to distribute laptop computers to children when they leave the SEA and go into secondary school. Every single child will have a laptop computer. We expect that at the school, the children would have internet access, and increasingly, more children will have internet access at the home, either through a service provider or, where appropriate, through a Wi-Fi service. Therefore, we have made it easier now for deserving applicants to use the technology that would be available certainly at the household to make online applications which we can process.
Some 50 persons were the recipients of much-needed home improvement grants. Among them were 16 families who were victims of the recent severe flooding in Marval.
This morning, 50 persons will receive disbursements in a first tranche. Among those are 16 families who were victims of flooding last year in Marval, while 50 others will receive the balance of their grants in the second tranche. The unit, the Housing Policy Facilitation and Implementation Unit, steadfastly continues its effort to become more effective and efficient in providing an improved level of service to the community.
The home improvement grants offer a maximum of $15,000 for home repairs and renovations. Minister Munilal says, however, certain conditions apply for applicants to qualify for such grants.
The home improvement grant funding offers a maximum of $15,000 for the purpose of home repair and renovation to any citizen of Trinidad and Tobago who is a homeowner and whose household income does not exceed the prescribed ceiling of $60,000 per annum.
Over $35 million in grants have been given to over 2,000 families across the country from the period October 2010 to May 2012. The Housing Minister says, however, that measures are in place to ensure that the grants are used for the intended purpose.
It's almost $36 million in grants to applicants who have applied for the home improvement grant. As many of you would have discovered, the system of disbursement has several built-in checks and balances to ensure that the money is utilized for the purpose intended. The grant is disbursed in a first and second tranche. The first tranche of $7,500 is paid after the circumstances of the application have been investigated and verified. The second tranche is disbursed after a satisfactory report has been submitted on the initial repair work. So we don't give the entire grant in one shot.
Verna Barath, News 4.
Sport is up next, right after the break.
I'm Natasha, and like most Trinbagonians, I love the beach. The beach can be fun, but we have to be tsunami smart and know the warning signs. You're at the beach and you feel the earth shake. Run. You see the water moving an unusual distance out from the shore. Run. You hear a strange roar from the sea. Run. If you experience any of these warning signs, run to higher ground. Be tsunami smart and know the natural warning signs. They could save your life.
A message from the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, United States Agency for International Development, Caribbean Disaster and Emergency Management Agency, UWI Seismic Research Center, and the European Union.
The North Zone Basketball League is in full swing, with games being contested in 6 divisions, which includes senior men and women as well as youths. Now, this is no easy undertaking, but Commission Chairman Barry Stewart and his team are managing to put out a quality sporting product regularly at the Jean Pierre Sports Complex. Wayne Cunningham has more.
The North Zone Basketball League is the largest of divisional competitions, which come under the auspices of the National Basketball Federation of Trinidad and Tobago. With teams such as the Defense Force, Shack Attack and Flour Mills in its ranks, the league is arguably the most popular of the divisional competitions. Barry Stewart, chairman of the North Zone Basketball Commission, told us more.
The North Zone Basketball Commission, we have basically 10 first division teams. We have 15 second division teams, 5 female senior teams. We have the under 19 division, which is the men and women. The under 19 is basically 10 male teams. The under 19 female teams, we just have like 5. The under 16 female team, we only have 3. And the under 16 boys, we have 6. So basically in all, we have approximately about 49 teams running in this structure. This year we have the first division will be running 2 rounds, and all the other divisions and them, male and female, will be going 1 rounds, and then the big 4, which will be playing best out of 3.
Following this competition, the champions will move on to bigger things on a national level.
How the structure of the Trinidad and Tobago basketball is run. Once you play, this is the National North Zone League. So after that, we have the national championships, which most likely the top 4 teams will be coming out of the North Zone to go to to play against the other zones and them for the national championships, which approximately it could be around October or September time there. But from here, it goes to the national championships.
The Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago is doing its part to assist the league, but it's a huge project, and the former national captain is calling for corporate TNT to step up.
Basically, right about now, the league is funded on its own. Basically, the gates, the concession stand and stuff like that, the team registration. I would say hats off and thanks to the sport company. The sport company granted us a waiver in reference to summary and games in reference to the facility. But other than that, we are trying. We send out a lot of letters asking the corporate Trinidad and Tobago to assist us and stuff like that. But it seems not as yet we get some assistance in terms of small hampers and nothing monetary wise as yet.
Saturday, 2nd June will be an ideal time to start that support, with the All-Stars being on show. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, fulfilling the promise. Stay with us.
You will see how we have been retasked with a newly equipped CSI division and data systems that not only put crime fighting logistics at our fingertips, but those of CSI units throughout the world. And you will see how our police service has been reborn with a new sense of pride, a new sense of duty, and a new sense of community service that demonstrates that protect and serve means we are really here to protect and serve you, and to do it with pride. Each of us has chosen to serve, to do public service, to be here for you in some of life's most terrifying and saddest moments, to listen, to help, to be there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our hearts and minds will never close.
I'm away celebrate its achievements in its second year in office, the government launched a 45-page glossy collector's magazine. The magazine, titled Fulfilling the Promise, Shaping the Future, is a compilation of the major achievements of each individual ministry, set to reflect on the 7 interconnecting pillars of development as outlined as part of government's strategic framework. In her message to citizens, Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar noted the government's second year in office was said to be one of delivery, and throughout the pages of the magazine, citizens will see and read the tangible evidence intended to support the government's promise of delivery, as it is intended to give citizens that opportunity to examine some of government's achievements. The Honorable Prime Minister noted that this publication represents her government's commitment to the principle of accountability, as it seeks to present completed work done by the government in a simple, easy-to-read format.
In our special feature, Fulfilling the Promise, we highlight the initiatives and achievements of the government over its 2 years in office. At News 4, we have joined in that effort, and each day in our news package, we feature one of those highlights from the long and impressive list of milestones over these 24 months. In this story, we look at access roads.
Access roads for farmers. It's another step in government's move to improve the country's farming community. Over the years, farmers have consistently complained of neglect from successive governments. Under the stewardship of Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the Ministry of Food Production, Land and Marine Affairs has been charged to launch a campaign to provide critical access roads in such farming areas. And with Minister Vasant Bharat at the helm of the ministry, more and more farmers are able to reap the benefits of these incentive programs. The minister says he's not fazed by the budget.
We did not get a significant amount of money more than we've done in the past. What we have been able to do is to utilize the funds a lot better in a much more focused way, so that we can actually bring the goods and services that's required to the farmers directly to them, so that you will see that they've received far more benefit, although we've more or less spent exactly the same amount of money as the ministry has spent in past years.
Let's now journey to Tabaquite, where farmers are enjoying freshly paved roads that provide critical access to their plots. This is Mr. Kelly Badal. He is the Public Relations Officer of the Tabaquite Vegetable Farmers Association, but he's also been a farmer for the past 34 years. It's the business that his family thrives on.
Over the 34 years, we had a lot of challenges, like flooding, we had, road condition, all these things, and we stayed in the business because at the end of the day, we had to produce food.
To this family, these roads are a critical part of their operations. Before the advent of this paved passageway, the Badals were forced to trudge through meters of mud to get to their crops whenever it rained. For most farmers too, the tropical weather can be a bitter enemy, because while the rain provides necessary water for the crops, excessive rain can cause waterlogging and flooding in some parts. Tabaquite farmers are no strangers to flood. They've fallen prey to flooding in the past. In fact, you might recall that shortly after being sworn in, Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar donned boots to visit victims of flood, among them several farmers. Another farmer, Franklin Villafana, explains that under this government, they've accessed their compensation packages in record time.
We received it in a short space of time, maybe I think about a couple of months. It didn't take long, which was I think the fastest we ever received compensation.
Councillor for the area Henry Awang also weighed in on the new access roads for the farmers, and he's quite pleased with the work that government has accomplished.
The agriculture access roads in Tabaquite and surrounding communities is a challenge as it relates to farmers and farmers accessing their farms and so on, but over the last year or so we were able to get quite a few roads in the area upgraded, so we have some of the farmers are happy. There are quite a few still to be done. That remains one of the challenges. I know last year we were able to get some, as I mentioned before, hoping that this year, in this financial year, we are able to get some more of the road fixed for the farmers to access their estates and farm. But we are happy with last year's work by the Ministry of Agriculture that we were able to get quite a few roads done in the area.
Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar has said that as important as putting a roof over the head of citizens, so is the need for food security. She believes that farmers play a very crucial role in ensuring that as a nation, we are able to feed ourselves. It's with this in mind that the Ministry of Food Production, Land and Marine Affairs is moving to put agriculture on the front burner and fulfill government's promise to farmers.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you for joining us.